Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello and welcome to the Success in Africa podcast episode 35. My name is Dr. Modupe Taylor Pierce, and I am a scholar and practitioner of leadership and organizational development. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I have been studying this for 3 decades with a particular focus on people in Africa. And in this podcast, I'm going to share stories, lessons, and insights from people having success in Africa. Why this podcast? Because I am sick and tired of Africa being the poorest continent in the world. We are blessed with the greatest resource, young people. Africa will soon have the largest number of working age people in the world. And when these people achieve success, watch out. Africa's wealth will be unparalleled. Why? Because I know that not too many Africans exist whose goal in life it is to die poor. You see, success in life is simply the achievement of a predetermined goal, whether that goal is owning a house and a car, or creating employment for 100,000 people, or transforming your country into a high-income country. This podcast has been created to help you to achieve it. So, if you are serious about achieving success in Africa, I want you to subscribe to this channel. If you like this video after you've watched it, please click the like button. This podcast is brought to you courtesy of BCA Leadership, the largest leadership enhancement company in Africa. If you have questions that you want me to answer after watching this video, just log on to BCA Online, the link is on the screen, and post your questions there. That is where I will respond to your questions. Today we are concluding our 5-part series on great employees. The 5 C's of great employees. And these C's are calling, character, culture, competence, and chemistry. Let me share them again. Calling, character, culture, competence, and chemistry. 5 C's. In the past 4 weeks, we have explored calling, and then we explored character, and then culture, and then competence. And there have been just some amazing learnings that we've shared from our review of the journeys of Dr. Deko Mohammed of Somalia, Mr. Martin Kalungubanda of Zambia, Dr. Arikana Chiambori Kwao of Zimbabwe, and Dr. K.Y. Amwako of Ghana. If you missed any of these 4 episodes, that's episodes 31, 32, 33, 34, I suggest that after you've finished listening to this podcast, find these other episodes and listen to them. Today, we're going to be taking on the 5th of the 5 C's, and this is chemistry. No, I'm not talking about that subject in secondary school that you probably ran away from. Or maybe you loved it. No, chemistry in this case is defined as the connection to another person that stems from a mutual respect and admiration. You see, chemistry is important in an employee because your new employee has to be able to get along with you and also with other colleagues in the company. It's critical because there's a significant gap between the amount that any employee has to deliver in order to avoid getting sacked, that minimum amount, and that maximum amount that same employee has the ability to deliver. You see, that gap between the minimum that they have to do so that they don't get fired, they don't get sacked, and that maximum that they could do can make all the difference between success and failure for a company, or between making a profit and making a loss. And any employee, an employee with bad chemistry with his or her colleagues, can literally cause the entire organization to become misaligned. And an employee with good chemistry can get his or her colleagues to achieve levels of performance that even they themselves may not have deemed possible. Yetunde Oni of Nigeria illustrated this principle when she became the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank in Sierra Leone. Let me tell you a bit about her. Yetunde was raised in a Christian home, which may be where she found her secret to developing chemistry. Her father was a professor of information science who taught at the Ahmadu Bello University and the University of Ibadan. Yetunde, for herself, started her banking career at the Prime Merchant Bank Treasury and Money Markets Group in 1991. And then she joined EcoBank Nigeria for 10 years before finally moving on to Standard Chartered Bank in Nigeria. Now, before she was appointed as the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank in Sierra Leone, she headed the commercial banking unit of Standard Chartered Bank of West Africa, based in Nigeria. Yetunde came into a challenging situation in Sierra Leone. She was appointed in the middle of the COVID pandemic at a time when many banks were struggling with ways of working in the pandemic. To make matters more challenging, Standard Chartered Bank Sierra Leone had been in steady retreat as a bank, closing down successive branches, and even though the headquarters maintained a stellar international brand image, frankly, in Sierra Leone, Standard Chartered Bank Sierra Leone was not viewed as a place great for an employee's future. Finally, to add levels of difficulty to Yetunde's assignment, rumors about a sale of the bank started to swirl shortly after she assumed her duties, and these rumors were confirmed true when, less than 2 years into her term, the announcement about the sale of the Sierra Leone unit of Standard Chartered Bank to Access Bank became public. Despite these obstacles, Yetunde was successful in developing quality relationships with her direct reports, her board members, her colleagues, CEOs of other banks in Sierra Leone, the banking regulators, her customers, her suppliers, and the community leaders in the area where she lived and the bank operated. Her humility and sincerity in seeking the best interests of other people, her faith in God, which enabled her to show positivity in the face of many storms, her courage and integrity, which earned her the grudging trust and respect of even the people whose interests were not aligned with the bank's interests. All of those things conspired to allow her to deliver stellar operational and financial performance at Standard Chartered Bank Sierra Leone, to the extent that 3 years after she became the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank Sierra Leone, she was appointed to become the CEO of Union Bank in Nigeria. A much, much bigger job. The raw emotion that poured out of her colleagues at her send-off event was so genuine that some of her colleagues' CEOs were even envious of her. And yet, they could not help but want the best for her because she had always invested genuinely in their relationship, and they knew that her star would rise even further because of how she had developed chemistry in such a short time. See, there are so many lessons to learn from Yetunde Oni's journey. She did not bend to the wishes of many of her stakeholders, but the manner in which she said no ensured that they could not help but like and respect her. She moved to Sierra Leone without her family, leaving her husband and children behind in Nigeria. So when it came to developing chemistry, she did not have any crutches to lean on. No husband who would bring friends to help with relationship building. No children who would make connections with their friends and the parents of their friends. She developed chemistry with all of her stakeholders by being courteous, professional, sincere, honest, courageous, consistent, selfless, passionate, and trustworthy. She consistently demonstrated the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Frankly, I am confident that Yetunde Oni will excel and continue to soar in her current role as the CEO of Union Bank. We have now covered the 5 C's of a great employee: competence, character, culture, calling, and chemistry. These are 5 C's that you should look for when looking for a business partner, an employee, or anyone else that you will collaborate with when seeking to do business and achieve success in Africa. I embarked on this series because I know that achieving success in Africa will require you to successfully recruit people to your team to help you to bring your vision to fruition. Your ability to assess and attract people with the 5 C's will play a significant role in your success in achieving it in Africa. Do not make the common mistake of many African investors by assuming that somebody from your village or your family or your schoolmate is automatically going to be a good business partner or employee. You see, that person may tick the box on culture and on chemistry, but perhaps they may not tick the box on competence, on character, and on calling. And if they don't, you are setting yourself up for heartache. You see, your choice of business partner or employee, especially when it's one of the first few employees, that is a critical time. Those choices will determine your success. Use the 5 C's as a yardstick by which to measure whether or not that prospective partner is the right partner for your business or organization. And I assure you, you will accelerate your progress to success. This is what has worked for me, and I know it will work for you too. And I wish you the best of success. This brings us to the end of our podcast today. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope you've learned something useful, not only from today's podcast, but certainly from this series on the 5 C's of a great employee. I look forward to your comments, your questions, your testimonials, frankly, as you achieve success in Africa. And certainly, I encourage you, please do not keep this podcast to yourself. Subscribe and tell your friends about it, because together we can transform our beloved continent of Africa. See you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.